that our circle of justice and compassion is big enough to hold everyone. So no matter what you're searching for what questions you bring, or who you are, or who you love, or where you're from, we are so glad to have you with us today. And I skipped a whole bunch of my usual welcome in case you're wondering where the rest of it went. Now we have a time for announcements. So if you have an announcement to share, please come on forward. I will turn on this mic, and even though it has a little bit of a buzz, we'll turn it off right after. And please share your name so everyone can know who you are.
You're the court.
Turn off the buzz.
So if you would like to purchase one or a mini shirt or t-shirt, or there's all sorts of things, there's like coffee mugs too. I also got a coffee mug, it's like you. That money goes to our fellowship, so check it out. The link for it is out on the bulletin board. We also have it on our Facebook site, and I can email it to you. Thanks.
Putting on Lori's. In case you haven't heard this before. Crochet dolls for Health Partners International of Canada. These dolls go in medical kits that are provided by service people and health providers to children that they come upon as they're providing service. And some of these children have never had a toy. So I think that's very moving to me when I read that. I just want to say that today is potluck, and after potluck, anybody wants to learn to knit or learn how to get involved with this project, just come and join us. Thank you. Morning. You can hear me? Yeah. Okay. Here we go. I'm Miranda, and I just want to let people know, maybe there are some people who don't, that next Sunday, membership committee is offering a program, and it's the second of two programs we regularly offer to people who are interested in finding out more about Unitarian Universalism. And you are welcome to come. It will be after the service. What you do is go in and grab your coffee, get your snack, and bring it back in here. The program is about an hour long, and we provide some history and some fun activities. Helping to explain who you visit. So join us. Great.
Thank you, everyone. And it's time for the chalice lighting. Henry? We light our chalice this morning with the words of Ben's soul. We light this chalice, the symbol of our faith, knowing that this morning many others across the land and around the world are doing the same. For us, light of peace, love. But without work, these aspirations flicker out as soon as the candle is extinguished. Let us all join together to accept the challenge of doing the hard work that makes these aspirations real.
There we go.
So the same technology that is allowing us to broadcast this service across the internet and allows us to connect with people who we haven't seen since high school and allows us to yell at people we disagree with on the internet, that same technology that can bring us together and apart can separate us from what we're doing and what we are right here in this room. So let's take a moment to put our phones into worship mode and make it so it's silent so we aren't distracted by the rest of the world for just an hour. And now we'll take a second here. You can close your eyes if you feel comfortable. You can settle yourself more firmly into your chair. Take a deep breath in and out. feel this place and these people and the small noises that mean we're all together. You can feel your shoulders drop just a little bit as you relax. Feel your connection with the ground or your feet. And listen to the sound of the chime. 3 words this morning are by Rebecca Savage. We gather together today with the sacred intention to declare that justice is our prayer. We affirm in covenant with the beloved community that it is possible. Not here, not quite yet. The seeds have been planted time and again, and we remember all those who went before us who made beloved community a dream that could be realized. Justice is our prayer. May our time of worship together continue to water the budding trees of our diverse interdependence. May our time of worship give air and nourishment to the parts of our collective spirits that need to grow and thrive, that embrace equity as a known way of being. Justice is our prayer. We affirm in covenant with the beloved community that it is possible. May it be so. Let us worship together. Now this is time for our first hymn, and our first hymn is going to be a fun one, everyone. Oh no, you all know what that means. So it's number 395 in the Great Singing the Living Tradition hymnal. The hymn is called Sing and Rejoice, and it's a round, which means that we will be singing it a cappella. So you're going to have 2 song leaders. So CJ is going to lead group 1. And Valerie's gonna lead group 2. And the way we're gonna do this is first, Kay is gonna play the piano so that we all get a chance to hear what the tune sounds like. Then we're all gonna sing it together once so that we all know the tune. We're all gonna remember it after just one repetition, right? And then after that, we're gonna split into 2 groups. Group 1, group 2, and we're gonna sing it for 4 times. So group 1 is gonna get an extra half sing in there because we're gonna start, so group 1 starts, and then group 2 comes in at number 3 in the book. You'll just follow along, so don't have to worry about the technicality. And then what you can watch for is Valerie's gonna go like this when we're done. So you can just watch Valerie. She's like, wait, what? All right, so everybody ready? We got it? Okay. Awesome, everybody. And that was an unfamiliar hymn to everybody. You guys conquered it. All right, so now is time for a story. So whether you are young in body or in spirit, you are welcome to join us in the front of the sanctuary. Anybody want to come up? Talk really loudly. Can everybody hear me if I do this?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'm just gonna try and talk really loudly, and if I stop talking loudly and start just kind of talking to them, please remind me that you can't hear me, because that is something that I do. I used to give tours at an orchard, and I would be talking to everybody, and then suddenly I'd answer somebody's question, and they're right here, so I started talking to them. They're like, nobody else can hear you. All right, so this is Of the I Sing, and it's by former President Barack Obama. And it's illustrated by Lauren Long, so it's got some really pretty photos in it. Have I told you lately how wonderful you are? How the sound of your feet running from afar brings dancing rhythms to my day? How you laugh and sunshine spills into the room? Have I told you that you are creative? A woman named Georgia O'Keeffe moved to the desert and painted petals, bones, and bark. She helped us see big beauty in what is small, and hardness of stone and softness of feathers. Have I told you that you're smart? That you bring great ideas with imagination? A man named Albert Einstein turned pictures in his mind into giant advances in science, changing the world with energy and light. Have I told you that you're brave? A man named Jackie Robinson played baseball and showed us all how to turn fear to respect and respect to love. He swung his bat with grace and strength of a lion and gave brave dreams to other dreamers. Have I told you that you're a healer? Can you see this? Oh, it's neat. So it's a hillside with horses, but it's also a person's face. Cool. Sitting Bull was a Sioux medicine man who healed broken hearts and broken promises. It is fine that we are different, he said. For peace, it is not necessary for eagles to become crows. Though he was put in prison, his spirit soared free on the plains, and his wisdom touched the generations. Have I told you that you have your own song? A woman named Billie Holiday wore a gardenia in her hair and sang beautiful blues to the world. Her voice, full of sadness and joy, made people feel deeply and add their melodies to the chorus. Have I told you that you're strong? A woman named Helen Keller fought her way through long, silent darkness. Though she could not see or hear, she taught us to look at and listen to each other, never waiting for life to get easier. She gave others the courage to face their challenges. Have I told you how important it is to honor others' sacrifices? A woman named Maya Lin designed the Vietnam Veterans Memorial to remember those who gave their lives in the war, and the Civil Rights Memorial to thank the many who fought for equality. Public spaces should be filled with art, she thought, so that we can walk amidst it, recalling the past and inspired to fix the future. Have I told you that you are kind? A woman named Jane Addams fed the poor and helped them find jobs. She opened doors and gave people hope. She taught adults and invited children to play and laugh and let their spirits grow wide. Have I told you not to give up? When violence erupted in our nation, a man named Martin Luther King Jr. taught us unyielding compassion. He gave us a dream that all races and creeds would walk hand in hand. He marched and he prayed, and one at a time, opened hearts and saw the birth of a dream in us. I told you that you're an explorer. A man named Neil Armstrong was the first to walk on the moon. He watched the world from way up high, and he watched the lunar landing leaps, which made us brave enough to take our own big strides. Have I told you that you're inspiring? A man named Cesar Chavez showed farm workers their own power when they felt they had none. The people were poor but worked hard and loved the land. Cesar picketed, prayed, and talked. The people listened to their hearts and marched for their rights. Seize the plate, Cesar said. Yes, you can. Have I told you you're part of a family? A man named Abraham Lincoln knew that all of America should work together. He kept our nation one and promised freedom to enslaved sisters and brothers. This man of the people, simple and plain, asked more of our country. We behave as kin. And I told you to be proud to be an American. Our first president, George Washington, believed in liberty and justice for all. His barefoot soldiers crossed wintry rivers, forging ever on. He helped make an idea into a new country, strong and true, a country of principle and a country of citizens. Have I told you that America is made up of people of every kind? People of all races, religions, and beliefs. People from coastlines and mountains. People who have made bright lights shine by sharing their unique gifts and giving us the courage to lift one another up, to keep up the fight, to work and to build upon all that is good in our nation. Have I told you that they are all a part of you? Have I told you that you are one of them? That you guys are the future? All right. So thank you so much for listening, everyone. Ready to go to your class? And now is the time in our service when we pause for our morning offering. Our morning offering is what keeps us going as a fellowship. I feel like a public radio station coming in and talking about this every week. But you know, the person who was the CEO of my company before our new CEO, she used to say that like churches have it down because asking for support shouldn't be something that's like hidden and embarrassing. It's something that if you're coming and you agree and you want our community to thrive, then it's not embarrassing to say, hey, we need things. Just like it's not embarrassing to tell your spouse that we need to pay the light bill. I mean, I don't know, maybe it is. But I choose you all, I choose this faith, and the morning offering is the time when we have a chance to show that we choose one another. So thank you so much for offering to support our community. And if this is your first visit, your presence is the gift of it in and of itself. Thank you so much for the morning offering, given in a spirit of generosity and received with gratitude and love. And now the choir is going to come up and we're going to sing Though I May Speak with Bravest Choir. If you want to follow along, it's in the hymn, it's number 34.
Strangely, all spirits fall. It's control. All spirits fall. To be as we were.
It's another reading from Braver Wiser. So if any of you actually get the Braver Wiser email list, you may be familiar with this because it's a fairly recent one. It's from last year around this time. It's by Karen G. Johnson, and it's called The Sea of Moral Injury. She starts it with a quote. "We are swimming in this stream together, some in power and some in pain. We're all swimming to the other side." It's from Pat Humphrey's song, Swimming to the Other Side. She says, "Here I am again, stopped at a traffic light, a sea of cars surrounding me, a handful of vehicles ahead of me, and stationed on the median strip, someone visibly in need, likely unhoused, walks the line of momentarily stopped cars, cardboard sign in hand, asking for money. And I find myself praying, not for their well-being, not for solutions to our broken housing system. Instead, I perversely pray that the light will change before they arrive at my rolled-up window." Yeah, have you ever done that? I know I've done that. Perhaps you follow the dictum of the 19th century poet Walt Whitman, "Give alms to everyone who asks." And this frees you to know you've done your part. Perhaps because you intentionally support community organizations that provide direct service or address systemic issues, you pass by and experience no unease. Perhaps. Personally, I swim clumsily between these two approaches. I find myself struggling to keep my head above these ethical waters. Because any liberation must be collective liberation. I know it's critically important to keep at the center of our attentions those who most directly and are most direly impacted. That being true, I've also come to believe that no matter what one's privileged status is, at this point in late-stage capitalism with its rot of the social safety net, we are all constantly swimming in a sea of moral injury. No matter our social location, we regularly witness or fail to prevent harm caused by systems not of our making. This causes us to grapple with not only our place in the shadow sides of the interdependent web of all existence, but also the harm we experience. And in response, sometimes I turn away and scroll on and numb out. And sometimes I pray for the wrong things. Yet my faith, values, and principles tell me that there is a different option to turn towards. And when I turn towards that sense of complicity or that sense of moral injury, it becomes a message from the interdependent web of all existence. Harm of one is harm of all. When I can pause, even for just a moment, I can recognize my unease for what it is. Not a reason for disconnection or a seed of resentment, but a niggling hello from the interdependent web of all existence, reminding me of a deep connection with my fellow earthling. a dogged attempt to stir me from the illusion of separation, an abiding call to save me from the false promise of safety by materialistic individualism. When I can position myself to hear this universal and universalist message, I am better able to know which direction to swim. And she concludes with a prayer. Spirit of life and love, may it be true that there is a moral arc of the universe. May it be true that when we come together, centering those most harmed, we can bend it towards justice. May we recognize each other as we swim in these roiling waters of late-stage capitalism, being for one another rafts and bridges and islands of respite, till we make it to that further shore, till we make it to the other side. Now please rise in body or spirit to sing hymn number 145 in the great hymnal, as tranquil streams. We are all the stranger. So I actually had a different opening to this, but I was reading these words as we were singing along, and I try to read them before I pick the hymn, but I was like, no, tranquil streams, it's got water, I talked about swimming to the other side, that's good enough, we got it. And then I came through and I'm singing these words, and I was thinking, a freedom that reveres the past, but trusts the dark future more. And that just reminds me of the book that we were just reading to the kids, that they are the future. And I think, wow, I really do trust how kind my kids are growing up to be, and the things that they are learning and the things that they are knowing and feeling. I feel like this next generation really has learned to, be active. And it's something that I'm just like, wow, that's amazing when I see it. And the other thing that I thought of was, free from a social code that fails to serve the cause of human need. And, okay, so I know all of you are very familiar with the Good Samaritan. And the reasons why Jesus would have been telling the story of the Good Samaritan, which is, the Good Samaritan, somebody got injured on the side of the road, and the priests walked past, and all the rich people walked past, and the Samaritan, who was looked down upon, was the person who came and helped. And I thought it was really interesting that we were pointing out in our hymnal that we want to be like the Samaritan and not like the priests who would walk by because somebody who's injured is unclean. I'm like, yes, we do want to do that. And I'm so happy that we have the Pottstown Cluster Basket and that we do collections for Cradles to Cram and that we reach out to people across the world with our gifts of dolls to make children who've never had a toy feel better about something awful that they may be experiencing. I am so glad that we're a community that does things like that. So that was my thoughts on this hymn. So I don't know about you, but I've been having trouble listening to the news. Even I listen to a news broadcast that is, it's balanced. And you know, it's actually, if you look at all of the research centers, they're like, oh no, the newscast you're listening to is actually the most balanced one. And yet, I still feel like I'm constantly hearing how our country is just not doing its job very well right now. Our government is like literally trying to disappear people for political speech that they disagree with. Firing people without cause and without due process. And branches of government are seizing power and ceding power until that three-legged stool that we all learned about in grade school is kind of wobbly. And you know, all those people who just wanted to vote for making sure that the price of eggs went down so that they could feed their families in peace. Well, they're not getting what they wanted either. Instead, we're getting a trade war and stock market is rocked by uncertainty, and the researchers tracking bird flu have been told the government will do better without them. Because, you know, we don't need to come with bird flu to get the egg price down. May you live in interesting times, the old curse goes. Interesting times indeed. Marla McCool, writing for the website Mental Floss, tells us a little bit more about the origin of that phrase. There is actually a saying, you may have heard, oh, you know, it's not actually an ancient Chinese phrase, and that's true, it's not. There is actually a phrase from a 1627 Chinese book of short stories that's roughly translated to, it is better to be a dog in a peaceful time than to be a man in a chaotic period. I envy my dog a lot of the time. It's better to be a dog in a chaotic period than it is to be because what is he doing? Like my dog literally sits on the couch. Like that's his job. His job is to sit on the couch and to occasionally trip me when I get up to feed him. So where did may you live in interesting times actually come from? According to McCool, the first published usage was from Sir Hugh Knatchville Hugesson, how British is that name, who was a British diplomat to China in 1936. Now, he used the phrase, may you live in interesting times, and he called it an old Chinese curse in his memoir, A Diplomat in Peace and War, that was published in 1949. And he said that his generation was certainly a living testament to how difficult interesting times are for those who experience them directly. But apparently that quote had been floating around the British embassy in China for a while. Diplomat Sir Austen Chamberlain, brother of Neville Chamberlain, who was the British Prime Minister in 1937, he used it in correspondence with Frederick R. Couder, the Vice President of the American Society of International Law. Now I'm going to quote directly from McCool's piece. According to Couder, Chamberlain wrote back in reply to a letter, I learned from one of our diplomats in China that one of the principal Chinese curses heaped upon an enemy is, may you live in an interesting age. And Chamberlain reportedly claimed, well, no age has been more fraught with insecurity than our present time. Yeah, and I think we all feel that every day. Like, that was, you know, years ago in the 30s, and then it gets published in the 40s, which feels like they must have felt like, oh yeah, the 30s thought they had it hard. Well, Americans are more likely to have learned of this quote as a phrase from Robert F. Kennedy's Ripple of Hope speech that he gave in the University of Cape Town when he visited in 1966. Now, I invite you to read the whole text of Robert Kennedy's Ripple of Hope speech because it is amazing. It was written and delivered almost 60 years ago, but the words and the thoughts still feel fresh today. I'm just going to quote a little bit of it, but you really his speechwriters were amazing. And actually, if you've heard text of the speech, he did a great job delivering it. So his speech goes, "There is," said an Italian philosopher, "nothing more difficult to take in hand, more perilous to conduct, or more uncertain in its success than to take the lead in the introduction of a new order of things. Yet this is the measure of the task of your generation, and the road is strewn with many dangers. First is the danger of futility, the belief that there is nothing one man or one woman can do against the enormous array of the world's ills, against misery, against ignorance, injustice, and violence. Yet many of the world's great movements of thought and action have flowed from the work of a single man. A young monk began the Protestant Reformation. A young general extended an empire from Macedonia to the borders of the earth. A young woman reclaimed the territory of France. A young Italian explorer discovered the New World. And 32-year-old Thomas Jefferson proclaimed that all men are created equal. Give me a place to stand, said Archimedes, and I will move the world. These people move the world, and so can we all. Few will have the greatness to bend history, but each of us can work to change a small portion of the events. And then the total, all of these acts, will be written in the history of this generation." And he goes on, he has other points to make, but this point was the one that I just, yes. There is another saying, this one is actually attributed to the Zhejiang province of China during the Yuan dynasty, that says, "Heaven is high and the emperor is far away." And what does that one mean? Heaven is high and the emperor is far away. Well, it's usually used, or it was at that time, used in reference to corruption in their own general little worldview. Like the emperor's law isn't gonna interfere with this bureaucrat who's abusing me here. But also, if I'm ignoring the emperor's laws, you know, who's gonna know? He's far away. Heaven is too high to tell. It matters what we do here and not out there. None of us have power in Washington that I know of. None of us knows the president personally, and we can't call him up and remind him of the golden rule and the network of mutuality that combines us all. But we can do things here. They may be small things, but American culture is created by the grassroots that are growing up, and not some kind of trickle-down economy where the benefits rained on the wealthy and lucky never make it to the bottom where the need is greatest. So how do we water our grassroots? I'm gonna tell you a little story. At my daughter's school, we used to have this fundraiser that was a father-daughter dance. And a lot of people went to it, and it was a very well-loved tradition. And it stopped being held when the new head of school started. The new head of school coincidentally started around COVID times, so who knows why it actually stopped. But this new head of school is leaving and we're getting another new head of school. And one of the parents sent out an email asking if anyone was interested in starting this tradition again. And, some people were in favor of it and some people didn't respond. It actually went to my junk email, so I didn't find it for almost a week. But a parent who emailed back with a long diatribe against wokeness and called out particular members of the school community. But you know what happened? Members of the school community wrote back and they said, our school is a place where everyone should feel welcome. It's okay to be disappointed with a choice to change a beloved tradition, But please don't attack people personally over it. And you know, that dance, it was a wonderful tradition, and when my daughter was able to go, she really had a good time. But it did leave a lot of people out. Mothers, sons, daughters whose fathers died, daughters whose fathers, like my own daughter, so he serves in the military, and some years he couldn't go, and she felt very left out, and she would cry and cry. There are daughters who have families who are sick, or daughters who don't have fathers for reasons they can't control. Inclusive doesn't mean woke. Inclusive just means including everyone, making sure everyone feels welcome. Honestly, I'm not even fond of the term woke because it's used grammatically incorrectly. These are grammar errors every time. May we live in interesting times. We are. We do, we live in interesting times. And I don't know about you, but I feel like we've lived these interesting times before and survived them. We made it through. We managed to swim to the other side. So maybe it's not as bad as we think. Maybe we can swim through it again. Before you say, yeah, but maybe we're all just frogs in the water, not noticing how hot that water is getting. I guess we have to live through those interesting times before we can find out. But one of my favorite readings, one I've read to you before, if I find it, I'm going to read a little chunk now, is about a drop in a bucket. I'm just reading a little chunk. This is Gordon McKeenan, not me. A drop in the bucket, what's the sense? What's the use? Just suppose that we are the merest drops in a bucket. Well, there are some unspoken assumptions here. We assume that a full bucket is what we're aiming at. And that until the bucket is full, nothing has been accomplished. And there's never a shortage of buckets. The bucket litany is long and tedious: racism, sexism, ableism, authoritarianism, oppression, injustice, violence, environmental degradation, overpopulation. You feel like a drop in the bucket? Well, who asked you to fill the bucket? Especially all alone. Remember how many there are who share your concern. We may feel daunted, but we are not one drop. A sense of isolation is the parent of that drop in the bucket feeling. You know, sometimes one can decide the size of the bucket. Don't think you can do a large bucket? Well, try a smaller size. Even imparting a bit of hope, a pat on the back, a financial contribution, a few hours of volunteer service, every drop helps. It might even be wise to remember why you need to help fill this bucket. Possibly to quench the thirst of someone hard at work on a larger one. And that buckets of whatever size are filled a drop at a time. And if you don't help, it'll take even longer. You know, we may be frogs in that hot water, but maybe drop by drop, we can replace that hot water with cold. So a couple of years ago, I was driving with, actually more than a couple of years ago, because she's 10 now. I was driving with my older daughter to an appointment at the obstetrician. So my younger daughter, I was having my younger daughter, and I had packed all these snacks because she was always hungry. And as we drove up to the median, there was a person standing in the median who was walking back and forth with a sign. And I don't carry cash anymore. I am one of those people who only has a credit card, and I was not going to hand this man my credit card. But you know what I did have? I had a sandwich. So I handed him that packed lunch that I had made for my daughter, and my daughter was like, well, what am I gonna eat? And I was like, we can stop at Dunkin', honey. It's a drop in the bucket. And I'm sure it only fed that gentleman for one day. And maybe not even that, because who knows if he likes peanut butter and jelly. Each one of our actions is only a drop in the bucket. But each raindrop that falls is only a single drop. And we all know that rain can cause a flood, and a flood can carve through a mountain. Scientific fact, the Grand Canyon was created by drops of water all working together. Ordinary drops of water, just like you and me. So may it be. And now let's join in singing hymn number 169, We Shall Overcome. fellowship is holding my older daughter's hand, cradling my younger brother, and singing this song on a Martin Niemöller Sunday. Now is the time in our service where we feel free to share the joys and the sorrows that may have come up about us this week. We move this time in connection to the end of the service so that we can pause our recording. So feel free to share things that you would not want preserved on YouTube forever and ever. This morning, we are really feeling that we're raindrops coming together to change the minds of the administration of college. We distinguish which shall explain, but not the light of its own, the warmth of the community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and in our hands, until we are together again. We close today with the words of Emily Richard. May you leave this time together changed. May the promises you have made to yourself about who you want to be feel closer to the reality of who you are right now. May you share that feeling of transformation wherever you go. May it spread into every word and deed and thought and interaction until we are all changed, transformed, and transforming together, becoming our better selves. Amen, shalom, salam, blessed be, and go enjoy some coffee.